Hello there, this is Big Benedict. We're playing God of War 3 on Chaos difficulty. This is my no upgrade run plus. This is the next significant installment here. It's called the Huge Ass Fight / the Endurance Fight. So the first thing we have to deal with is the sirens. And since the launch is not consistently working out for me, I'm going to use the Hermes boots to launch these enemies, which works every single time to launch, rather than depending on a button that works sometimes it doesn't, which is the triangle button. So what you can do here is you can distribute the damage amongst all these, because once you kill one siren, then you'll have the rest of the enemies spawning for the wave 2. What I like to do is just simply kill one first of all, and then since I'm going to be using magic here to destroy the shield guys, which for me are the most problematic enemies in this gauntlet, since I'm going to use a magic once or twice on those guys depending on how many shields I break, it's good to then focus on killing the sirens and receive some of your magic back, because as you know, when you slay sirens they give you magic, and then when you slay minotaurs later when they spawn, we're going to get some health back. So it's important to know several rules about endurance fights. Every hit you receive, it's going to add up and accumulate, and that's going to either let you win or lose. It's also important to know and target, like what, if you are getting hit, which goes with the territory, it's an endurance fight. If you're getting hit, what are you getting hit by? For me, it's generally the shield enemies. It's invariably them that cause the most damage from me. The amount of damage they deal is about a quarter of your life off. And I just detest those enemies. They have extremely long range with their attacks, and the sound effect that it does, it just brings home your error and your mistake of getting hit. But it is also important to know that everything in this arena, every attack from these enemies, except for one, can be completely blocked. And the one that can't be blocked is when the sirens go up in the air and do their magic. If you're in the vicinity of that attack, what you do is you do the left to right analog rotation. That's the only thing you can't block, but it can be easily controlled simply by going up to them, jumping up into them, where they're positioned on the map, and just grab them and then juggle them like you've seen me do. You could also control the spawns by killing, for instance, like right here. I'm gonna keep these minions alive. Always keep minions alive, because the damage you deal by throwing them and or using them as battering rams is incredible. It's more than the strength of your weapon is. So it just kind of depends. I don't know the ins and outs of the spawns, although I did get pretty intimate with the knowledge of it. Another thing to note, try not to press the circle button near Pandora. It's a failing of the game to have that implemented here. They should have deactivated it for this fight and then reactivated it afterwards. But if you're anywhere near Pandora and you grab her, you're trying to grab somebody else, obviously, she'll go on your shoulders and you have to press the R1 button to drop her, and in the meantime you're probably going to get slaughtered. So you can control most of the enemies in here will go after Pandora. So that's where the main action is going on, wherever she's located. So you can completely, go to one side of the room, do the powerhouse move from one side of the screen to the others. But at this point, we have Minotaurs spawning, and this is why you keep lackeys alive. The Minotaurs deal massive damage too. Their attacks might deal a little bit more than the jab that the Onyx shielded soldiers do. So I'm not sure. I think it is a third of your life off. These armored Minotaurs, they're brutal. But I believe over here, one of these Minotaurs separates and goes after Pandora. Do you see? It should happen over here, unless it's the next spawn of these guys. But look at this. one separates from the pack of two, and he goes after Pandora. So she is completely distracting him, and I can go after this guy. So they have a fiery 2-hit combo, so just simply block. I don't go after perfect parrying in this because sometimes you fail, and this is an endurance fight where survival is important. This took me, I would say, 3 to 4 hours, and I loved every minute of it because it's a fun and fair fight. You know, in God of War Ascension, there was a huge arena. I'm not talking about the one later in the game. I'm talking about midway through the game, after you slay the what's it called? That bird. I don't know what it's called, but there's a huge arena. You're pushing some kind of I don't know, but it's in my guide. I was ranting about it, and basically it was a huge arena, and they only put like 2 enemies in it, and it just goes to show you, you know, what we've been given. Like this, we're given this for this game, and then, you know, they stoop so low to have just they didn't avail themselves of all their assets with that. It's just ridiculous. But I just cannot stress how much importance it is to use the soldiers as weaponry. So at about this point, I think another siren's going to spawn in the middle, top middle. Yeah, a siren and a wraith. 2 sirens, excuse me. So definitely do that. It's so helpful. And then just juggle them up in the air. And then after 3 or 4, you'll stop juggling her, and that's the midway point. And then just chain her, chain juggle, take her out. So we're refilling our magic. I only use the magic for the shield enemies, and I try to wait until I get into like the densest cluster of those guys. And there's a lot. I was surprised. I forgot how many enemies there were. But these enemies, you take for granted these enemies when you fight them. And also watch out for the wraith. When he comes up, his sickles will glow yellow, and it's an attack that can get you. But you can simply block it. Like I said, you could stand in the middle of the room, and if that siren didn't do her attack, just assume that the siren decided not to do it. You could stand in the middle of this room for as long as you wanted, for 5 hours, and just keep guarding. But the thing about that, though, is when you don't guard, then you're immediately vulnerable to attacks. So you have to be very, very patient here, and very cautious and methodical about who you go after. Try to let the enemies come to you, and pick off these guys. I don't use the magic if it's a single guy. I try not to. Another thing that can happen, though, when you if you're in a cluster of enemies, or even not, if you have one weapon selected, like for instance the Blades of Exile, and I'm amidst a cluster of the Onyx shielded enemies, what happens? It's a bad thing that happens. It's an error of the game, but it's technically true. But what happens is, I want to use the gauntlet magic to slay to get the shields off of them. But the thing is, sometimes it's happened to me a couple times. I inadvertently use the blades magic, which doesn't do anything on those guys, obviously, because you need the Thestis magic. So if you're guarding and blocking, and you press you press down on the D-pad, because up is the blades. So say for instance you press down on the D-pad, and the icon, you see the icon, it has the Thestis icon right now, but if the icon, you'll see it change, but until you evade or move, the icon will change, but you won't see him, the animation of the weapon shifting. And also, until you move, like literally just move or dodge, evade once, it's not going to register the fact that you have a new weapon equipped. So you can inadvertently use the wrong magic. It's really complicated, but it happened to me. It's always happened to me. I think I've referenced it a couple of times. Like, for instance, like right now, if I had the blades on, I switched to the cestus. It wouldn't even be if these guys were pushing me. I would have to physically move. And once you move, then you'll see the weapon shift. And the reason I say it's an error is because technically you have changed weapons, but it hasn't registered, it hasn't buffered, and it's really bad. I hate it. So those are a couple of potential pitfalls, and like I said, I loved every minute of this fight. I was having fun. I'm currently on the Cerberus breeder, and I'm not having fun because it's hard as shit. And the thing is, they do not refill your health. I mean, you can't refill your health with any boxes because there are none between here and the save point. You'll get some after the save point. You do get a health and magic refill after the next sequence, which is called, I always refer to as the bullshit flying sequence because it's absolutely horrible. But if you take like a certain amount of health into the next sequence, it'll incrementally fill up when you keep dying on the chain sequence, but only up until a point. But we're so low on health that you should be able to get one mistake, and then the second hit will kill you on this kind of a no upgrade run. So as you can see, we have more bulls coming in, and I think this is just about the end of the video. So I'm separating. I'm leaving the race alone. I tend to focus on the sirens. If there's any siren around, I go after her because I don't want her going up and doing that area of effect attack where I can be vulnerable when I'm trying to do that quick time event. So just watch out for the overhead chop of these guys. See, 1, 2, and then he's vulnerable to attack, so you can launch him and then pound him in the air. Very effective. But just be careful that you don't continue to hit him when he has the O button prompt, because you want the health out of him, and you only get it by doing the QTE. So it's not much, but every scrap of health adds up. And when I was doing this, it wasn't hard. Like, I struggled like hell when I was doing this on hard for the first time, but that was 3 or 4 years ago when I didn't even know much about this game. I had played the other two, but I had given up on the clones when I was trying to do that on hard. And like, it's just the right kind of challenge that satisfies me. It could be a little harder. Like, I wish there were a couple of satyrs in here, but it's not frustrating the way, you know, the upcoming videos will be frustrating for you. But hopefully not. I mean, for me they are. That is one huge ass fight, and I love it. It's probably my favorite fight in the game. So we're going to be moving on. The next video is going to be called the bullshit flying sequence, and the next video after that, provided I beat it, will be the Cerberus breeder boss fight, because he breeds the dogs and spits them out, and you have to shoot them out. He's the only one of his type in this game, and it's incredibly difficult. It's not cheap, but boy, are the odds stacked against you in that fight. And that video might never appear on YouTube if I don't beat it, but I'm going to strive like hell to do so for the sake of this guide. So there's a couple of chests over here. I'm not getting them because they're item chests. I will see you in the next video. Thank you very much.